right, hello and welcome to Around the Horns, a show where we are talking everything about the University of Texas baseball team. I'm Aaron. I am here as always with my co-host Zach. We are recording this on Wednesday afternoon, which means Texas Longhorns beat Sam Houston State last night after dropping 2 out of 3 over the weekend against Cal State Fullerton. We will not be talking about the Mercer game, which takes place on Wednesday night, but before we dive into Cal State Fullerton and the Sam Houston game, and then looking forward to the series against the Manhattan Jaspers. Zach, how are you doing?
Doing good. I feel like we're fully in baseball season at this point. We had a 3-game series out in California, a double midweek, 3-game series, and another double midweek next week. So yeah, we're in the thick of it, getting ready for conference play.
Yeah, talk about being in the thick of it. I mean, we've got Texas on they just started a 14-game homestand. That's pretty unprecedented. It'll be great. We'll be back at the Dish pretty often. All those games will be on Longhorn Network, which will be great. Get to enjoy those broadcasts for everyone at home. The broadcast thing is nice because the Cal State Fullerton, I felt like I was getting personally trolled at one point because there was the Friday night game where Lucas Gordon's pitching and these guys go off on just a random tangent where they're like, yeah, he's not related to NASCAR legend Jeff Gordon. I was like, all right, that's good to know. Cool. So I sent out a tweet about that. I think they must have found my tweet or something and not liked it because on Sunday they just started taking personal shots at me left and right. Like they were bringing up Brandon Staley blowing the lead against the Jaguars. We got news in from Los Angeles. The Warriors have just lost to the Lakers. I was like, what is going on? Like there's in the 10th inning of the game and they're talking about I just felt like I was getting personally attacked. I don't know. That was strange. But anyway, it'll be nice to have those games on Longhorn Network where I'm free of Brandon Staley mentions. But other than the broadcast, it was a weekend against Cal State Fullerton. That's for sure. There was ups. There was a lot of everything. I mean, you can start with Friday or you can bounce around. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff happened over the weekend in Cali.
Yeah, that announcing crew for ESPN Plus was really rough. Yeah, shout out to Jeff. He was actually out at the Cal State Fullerton series. He said the press box was outside. So he was just sitting there in the mist in the cold, just trying to have fun. But yeah, those guys were characters, man. They a couple points I had to stop what I was doing and be like, wait, did they really just say that? Like they went on. There was another player outside of Gordon that they went on quite the tangent about possible relation, like parents or cousins or whatever. I can't remember who it was, but I was just like, how much research are y'all putting into this? Because this is really worrisome.
Yeah, no, there was a lot going on for sure. We had the Friday game, which was a crusher to Texas because Texas was able to take a lead. But Lucas Gordon, it was kind of the first time this year where Lucas Gordon just didn't have it. And it was an unfortunate time for that to happen. I mean, he's back in his home state of California. The offense gives him a lead, which, that hasn't happened too much this year. And he just wasn't able to deliver that shutdown inning, wasn't able to lock down the lead. That was tough to see because Texas is a better overall team than Cal State Fullerton. I think that's fair to say after watching the 3 games, even with Cal State Fullerton winning. And you expect with how Lucas Gordon has been pitching, him being the Friday night guy, you get that Friday night role, the expectations they raise. He knows that he's ready to step up to the plate, but he was not able to deliver like the Friday night guy usually should. Just couldn't really get the necessary outs. They're able to come back, and then Texas ultimately just kind of loses that game on Friday despite having the lead, and that was a rough way to start the weekend.
Yeah, defensively they weren't terrible. They had some kind of mental lapses. Lucas, his biggest problem is he couldn't locate. I mean, he didn't have a good feel for the slider.
The fastball.
So fastball was a lot, and his fastball was up and away,
yep.
Or up and inside. He could tell that he was trying to battle it and fight through it. Just, I don't know if it was a grip thing, the weather, what long travel weekend, whatever it was, but yeah, you're going to have an off day every once in a while as a pitcher. And he just did not have that command that you're used to seeing from him.
Yeah. It was nothing to be panicked about going forward. It was just kind of a missed opportunity there for Texas. And I know as the Friday night guy, you pitch on Friday, then you just got to sit there and root on your teammates all weekend. And, that's just eating at him in the dugout, knowing that if he would have had his stuff, they would have had game one in the bag. So I'm sure it was a long weekend out there for Gordon, but he'll be able to bounce back this coming weekend. Jump to Saturday, and Texas came out and they responded really nicely after the tough loss. In the first inning, Dylan Campbell, first homer of the year, absolutely launched. It was good to see that short swing trademark come back. And then Porter Brown followed it up back to back, opposite field power, which Porter Brown's he's been displaying that all year. He's got popped to every part of the field, so that was good to see. And then Morehouse was pretty solid. The defense kicked a couple balls around, and he was able to kind of recover. He was able to pick up his teammates when they made an error. He's done a better job avoiding the meltdown innings for most part. I know he's kind of gotten in his own way with those Kobe Bryant fadeaway jump throws on the bunts down the third base line, but for the most part, Morehouse was really good. I thought that was a mature outing from him. And then, Charlie Hurley came in, just slammed the door just as he did on Tuesday night, which we'll talk about. But yeah, those are the things that jumped out to me on Saturday.
Yeah, Hurley came from USC as a starter where he spent the majority of his time. And we knew that he was a strike thrower. He fills up the strike zone, doesn't walk a lot of guys.
Yep.
But I feel like he almost has a little bit of a second life as a reliever. He's hitting 94. He feels like he has more sharpness and a little bit more ability just to let it go. And so, yeah, he looks really, really good in those 3 innings that he pitched. And I was impressed by what I saw from Hurley out this weekend.
Yeah, I was writing about this after the game on Tuesday on Orange Bloods, and it's not like a prototypical reliever. You see a big, 6'8" righty with a low 90s fastball, and he'll flip in multiple breaking balls. He'll mix in the changeup to lefties. That's a starter's repertoire. He's out there, he's pitching to contact, getting strikes. He's not one of those guys that's just going to come in, or you thought he wasn't one of those guys just going to come in and blow by you and kind of dominate with just 2 pitches. But it has really been working for him lately. And, David Pierce is going to ride him as he should, because this is multiple outings in a row now where they've been able to go to him in high leverage, close games and get multiple, scoreless or 1-run innings out of him, which has been huge. And then Sunday, we'll move on to Sunday. That was a big game for Texas. That was a painful game for so many reasons. At first it just looked like the Texas team was kind of just going to go out sad with no offense, just kind of losing a typical game. And they come back in the 9th inning. Jack O'Dowd hits the game tying homer, which was the most exciting moment of the season, I'd say so far, besides LBJ throwing some of those splitters against LSU. But man, they ended up losing death by 1,000 bloopers. They're running up against the travel clock, which they can't start an inning after like 6 o'clock, or they have to go home, and there might be a tie in place. Or they use like 10 pitchers. We could do a whole show about the Sunday game, which we're not going to do because got other stuff to talk about, and that was very painful. But of the 10 things that happened in that game, what kind of stood out to you on Sunday?
Yeah, I think Coach Pierce talks about it all the time, the consistency. He likes to see that the kids battle back and how they answer diversity and respond. And I think he would have been hearkened by the fact that, in the 9th inning, they come back, they continue to stay in it, they stay engaged, and they fight back. What I think is going to drive him nuts, though, is the way they finish the game, which is not, again, the angles looked a little weird on TV, but I don't know how easy it would have been to get to. But that last ball that blooped in, I felt like there was a couple of them that were probably pretty reachable, but communication breakdowns in right field, left field. I think that's the stuff that drives David Pierce crazy, because he's like, look, I can see that you're battling back and you're working through it. And then you let something really dumb beat you. The other thing was, EK was really hitting the ball well this weekend. It looks like Jack O'Dowd's got into a bit of a rhythm. He had some really good at-bats. The bats overall were a little cold, but you talk about a guy like Garrett Guillemette, who absolutely was smashing the ball, but the liners are right to the defenders. You couldn't ask for worse luck from the guy. And then, of course, Peyton Powell, I'll let you touch on him, but yeah, talk about a breakout. He gets inserted and it's just instant offense.
Yeah, we've been talking about it this week. It's starting to feel a little Murphy Staley-ish, not from a stats standpoint. I'm not going to put the pressure on Peyton Powell to follow up the stats that Murph put up last year, but just from a perspective of a guy that's been in the program for a while, can clearly swing it a little bit, but just hasn't gotten his chance. He's been waiting behind other guys. Starts off the season on the bench. People forget last year that going into last season, the kind of only position battle on the team was for the last spot in the lineup between Murph and Dylan Campbell. And Dylan Campbell won that job to start the season. And then Murph kind of got a shot early in the year and he just took it and ran with it. And then obviously never looked back, was sitting 4 hole behind Ivan Melendez pretty much all year. That's kind of what happened with Peyton Powell. I mean, it's Jalen Flores at third going into the year. We think that's how it's going to be all year. He struggles a little bit. Powell finally gets a shot to step in and he makes the most of his opportunity, you know, as a redshirt junior. And it's really good to see because he's got a great swing. He's got a really good approach at the plate. It's even more left-handed pop. He'll pull the ball. He'll go down and get one. He'll stay. He had a really good swing on Tuesday night against Sam Houston where he stayed inside out and popped it to left field. I mean, he's really feeling it at the plate right now. And he, you know, they could use him because he's a guy you can move around on defense. I think third base is a good place for him right now. But man, you get a left-handed bat in that lineup, just a veteran presence that not like hasn't had a ton of at bats throughout his career, but he's clearly been around. He's clearly a hard worker, I would say. And man, yeah, it's fun to see a guy like that break out this late into his career.
Yeah, I mean, Pierce has talked about him being the ultimate utility guy. You know, realistically, even with Guillemette coming in, who's a prohibitive favorite at catcher, and a really touted prospect like Ryla and Galvan coming in from high school as a catcher, you know, Powell's running right there, kind of neck and neck with those guys at catcher. But, you know, I really was impressed with his defense. The more that I've seen him, the way he's handled the one hoppers, the two hoppers, the slow grounders on the turf, especially like Sam Houston on Tuesday night. There was a couple that he handled really, really well and made strong throws, and they're
nice arm too,
on target, right? And so I think that was the most impressive thing is that he has the ability to sit at first or sit at third or even play catcher, and it really lets Pierce kind of move the pieces around as he sees fit. And yeah, I mean, you have a productive left-hander in the lineup, which Texas didn't have at all last year, and it really means a lot. And you know, he's faced some adversity. He's been injured at times during his career, which means he's missed some parts of the season, and it really hampered his growth. But really good guy, really, really happy for the family to see him kind of, you know, bust out early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, stuff changes quickly in college baseball, so you never know. But it seems like a guy that should be sticking in the lineup for the foreseeable future. Just right in the middle there. So I want to move on now. I want to quickly go through a little panic meter exercise. You know, we did this early in the year last year, I believe, and stuff changes. I mean, I remember I was very concerned about, I think it was just Skylar Messenger. He was in the midst of a slump. I put him pretty high on the panic meter. He ended up just having an awesome season. So this stuff changes all the time, but I did think this would be a reasonable exercise for a few different categories. I want to start with the defense. You know, you mentioned the defense. It really hurt on Sunday. The infield defense has clearly had its problems. It was the outfield defense over the weekend in Cal State Fullerton that was kind of the most pressing issue. The outfield was wet out there in Cal State Fullerton. They'd gotten a lot of rain, so the guys kind of looked slower than normal, which you would expect in a wet outfield. But there were some bloopers. There were some balls that maybe could have been, you know, guys could have maybe laid out for, maybe could have dove. Maybe some miscommunication stuff. So overall, I'm at about a 6 on the panic meter for the defense. Shortstop continues to be a bit of a mystery. We'll talk about the Sam Houston game, but they tried to give Jaden Duplantier a start, didn't really work out. Porter Brown's been a little up and down in left field. EK's been pretty solid in center, but you've got moving pieces at third. You kind of got moving pieces at first. I'm at about a 6. I still think it's going to improve as the year goes on and guys get more comfortable and just get more playing time in general. But it certainly hasn't been pretty to start the year. And like I've said a bunch, this is not a pitching staff that's going to go out and get a ton of strikeouts in big situations. Like balls are going to be put in play, and this pitching staff needs plays to be made behind it. And that's just not happening consistently right now. So I'm at a 6 right now as far as the panic meter for the defense.
Yeah, I think I started out as a 7. I put it back down to a 6. And you mentioned that a really good point, right? This is not a team that has a lot of just strikeouts. They're going to put the ball in play. There's going to be a lot of grounders and choppers and fly balls. One of the things that kind of struck out to me was the fact that it feels like let's start with left field. Porter Brown is not the most natural defender in left field. That's just kind of a given. Nothing against the guy. He's got good athleticism. You talked about the wet field certainly hampered him, but like even Tuesday night against Sam Houston, he has ability sometimes to take a little bit of a wrong angle, which puts him in a little bit of trouble, react a little bit too slow. Dylan Campbell, I feel like Porter Brown is the same place Dylan Campbell was last year. He's still learning the ability to play defense out in left field. And that's where DC was last year. And now he's shown a lot more maturity, and he's made some really good plays in right field. So I think that there's still hope there, right? And he's a smart kid, works really hard. You mentioned third base. I liked what I saw from Powell. I think at times, Tanner Carlson had played really, really well defensively there. But I think he has limited upside in terms of being a plus defensive player. Jalen Flores has a lot of potential, but he's also struggled, just getting the throws accurately across the diamond and, just reading the defense properly. So a little bit of a moving piece there, right? And then you look at shortstop where I feel like Daly might still have the yips or something. Like he doesn't look fully comfortable in a lot of his motions when he's throwing to first base, but his movement's been really good. Like he's moved really well and ranged over. It's just that finishing throw to first base. Just, I don't know if it's a timing thing or what. Jaden Duplantier, he's got a little bit of playing time now at shortstop against Sam Houston. I didn't love the movement to throw. I feel like that's more of a second baseman long-term. That's where he belongs on that side of the field. Now, granted, they had some speed on the bases, but like the double clutch, the footwork, just throwing motion didn't seem to be there. We saw Cato O'Hara make plenty of errors up in Arlington. Granted, he's a freshman. He's very young, but I've seen him make some absolute gems, in practice. So I think it's more consistency than anything. It's not like long-term, like these are just bad players. It's, again, consistency.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's comfortable out there. I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are just worried when, like, not afraid for the ball to get hit to them, but it doesn't look like it's just coming easy to them like we've seen in years past. I mean, just like Trey Faltini getting a ground ball, it was not, he didn't even have to think about it. He's just going to make a great play. He's going to whip it over there to first base. I mean, Douglas Hodo running balls down in center field, it was just easy for him. It's just natural. It looked like natural position. And that just hasn't been the case so far. Maybe that'll develop as the year goes on. The next one I wanted to hit on quickly was Jared Thomas and Jalen Flores, the stud freshman. I don't really like the idea of having like true freshmen on the panic meter because they are freshmen, struggles are to be expected a little bit. But on the flip side, these were supposed to be, the first baseman and the third baseman all year, no questions about it. And like definitely the two highest touted freshmen on the team. And it hasn't really worked out. Jared Thomas, it's been kind of weird because Texas has faced a million left-handed pitchers, but I mean, you would still like to see him handle the lefties well. And it's been a weird year for him so far. And then Flores, he has struggled with the throws across the diamond. He's been moved to a bit more of a DH role. I'm not sure how comfortable they are having him at third, at least at this point in the season. So I'm at a 4 right now with Thomas and Flores. And my kind of reasoning there, I would have it lower, but it's like, I'm not sure at this point if they're going to get a ton of production from them this year, but I'm not worried about those guys long-term because I've liked the swings I've seen from both of them. The talent seems to be there. Jared Thomas made a really good defensive play on Tuesday night. Jalen Flores looked really good at the plate on offense on Tuesday night. So I could see those guys coming around. I don't know if they're going to reach the ceiling we had hoped for them in year one, but long-term, I'm not that concerned. So I'm just at a 4.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit lower. I'm at a 3. I think Thomas, as the year goes on, you're going to see more and more and more comfortableness of being at first base. He played a lot of right field. He played pitcher for Waxahachie. So he hasn't spent a ton of time, just like Melinda's never spent a ton of time at first base, right? So you're going to have those blips. But I see the consistency starting to go in. He's starting to make those decisions where, against Sam Houston, the play you're talking about, snagging the ball, tagging the base, and immediately looking to throw because he's got that mental clock going, oh, this is not a plus runner. I know I can get him. At the plate, I really like what I've seen from Thomas, and I think he's just gotten stronger and stronger throughout the year. But again, you mentioned it. 9 of the 12 starting pitchers have been left-handers. Like even David Pierce was like, yeah, I've thrown a lot of BP lately. And that's rough when you're a freshman, man. I mean, it's a different environment. Yeah, you're going to see some top teams and top pitchers in high school, but this is college. Like you're going to see every guy might be rolling out, throwing 95 plus or, some funky breaking ball that you're just not going to be able to hit. And so, I feel like as the year goes on, I have no qualms at all about Thomas. Flores, I'd like to see what I saw last night is him being more structured in the box. not reaching out, not trying to do too much. He looked a little bit quieter, if that makes sense, in the box. And he was able to, stay back on one and single it through. He's letting those balls run outside and not trying to reach. So I think as the year goes on, there'll be a lot more production from both of them.
Yeah, those are the two guys that I'm really keying in on over this stretch where Texas has, 10 more home games left against not the best competition, where I think guys like maybe Thomas and Flores could really get rolling at the plate and start to build some confidence and maybe become impact players by the time Texas gets into Big 12 play. I think you jotted down Dylan Campbell here. I'd put it at like a 2.5 for me. I'm just really not concerned. It's been a problem because Texas is off to a slow start just as a team and as an offense. And, Dylan Campbell was expected to be the best hitter in the lineup. So just from that perspective, we're not getting those games back. And I'm sure DC wishes he could have done more to help the offense in the games that have already been played. But I don't see anything in the swing that concerns me at all. The swing looks good. The approach doesn't look too bad. He's been taking his walks. I think he's going to be fine. He just really hasn't been finding the barrel, but I don't think there's anything mentally going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with the swing. It's just been a little disappointing so far numbers wise, but going forward, I don't know. I'm just not that concerned about DC. I still really believe in the swing and just believe in the player overall.
Yeah, I put this one on there just because so many people talk about DC, like expectations coming into the year. Hey, he's the heir apparent to Melendez, and we know he has a lot of power. But if you look at the number of walks that he's had, he has the highest number of walks on the team. So he's getting on base. The biggest thing for me is just, I don't know at times if he's trying to still find that right mix between pressing and being really aggressive early on and letting it just kind of slow down and come to him. And I think once he gets that fine tuned, he's going to be right back towards the top of the order in terms of batting average and all that. Last year he started out a little slow as well, but then as the season grew on, he kind of grew into it. And, he's still a young guy. Like, he's not a super experienced player. So no, it's interesting. The next one should turn some heads. You'd put down making the tournament with a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being most worried, no tournament. What do you have here?
Yeah, I think this is relevant. At this point in the year with, just the way that the season has started, the record that Texas has right now, and the schedule being not as daunting this year. So the RPI might not be great. And then, we know a little bit more about the Big 12 now. I think it's relevant, and I've got it as a 6, with the panic scale, 10 being no tourney. I don't know, man. I feel like this team's going to be on the bubble. I feel like we are going to be in Arlington for the Big 12 tournament, and we're going to be sitting next to each other in the press box, and we're going to be paying attention to the Texas game, but we're also going to be like, oh man, you see what's happening in the Pac-12 tournament, this bubble team, they're up by 1 in the 8th inning. And then, let's go to the Big 10 tournament, there's Maryland, they're in this close game. That's big for Texas. Like, I feel like this is going to end with us in Arlington tracking a bunch of games because Texas is on the bubble. That's just where I think this team is headed. I don't think they're doomed. I don't think it's going to be a team that obviously has no shot of making the tournament, but I've seen enough to worry me just a bit about the offense and the defense and how long can the pitching hold up. I know, people are expecting to get something from Tanner Witt at one point. I would just again say Tanner Witt it does seem like he is going to pitch in some capacity. That's the vibe right now, but I don't think you can, I wouldn't bank on 7 strong from Tanner Witt come, late in the season. That's just probably not going to be the case. I'm at a 6. This feels like it's going to get real sweaty down the stretch here.
Yeah. So I actually put a 7. I spent a lot of time going back and forth on this. And the reason I'm at that number is because if you look historically at RPI, if you look historically at strength of schedule, and then you look at Texas' schedule this year, there's not a lot of wiggle room, right? Like last year, everyone was like, oh, you should cancel this game because of RPI. And there was a lot of flack for those teams that did that, but at the same time, they preserved their RPI where they were. Typically, you have to be top 40 RPI to make the tournament. The D1 guys do a really good job of this, and the 11.7 guys do an even better job of pointing out, like, of the 64 teams that get into the tournament, 30 something plus are already, or 30, I think it's 36 of them are automatic qualifiers. Then you factor in how good the SEC is or how good Big 12 has historically been. You start breaking it down. There's really only 10 or 12 spots for at-large bids. And when I look at the RPI, when I look at the series, this could easily be a 38-40 win team. This could also very easily be a 31-25 team. And there's not a lot of margin for error there. You talked about the 14-game homestand. It's not like they're playing massive teams at home other than the very end, which is against Texas Tech to open conference. These are must-win games. And I thought Cal State was a must-win series because it's on the road against a team that's going to have an okay RPI. These 14 games feel like must-win games to some extent because they have to stack wins and they can't afford midweek losses. So
yeah,
that's the most concerning thing to me, because if you look at it, they had LSU midweek, they have A&M midweek. Sam Houston was no pushover. They've got some decent teams during the midweek that are going to give them some trouble. So they've got to win those games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and then, with all the teams around the country. But you just bring up a really good point with the schedule and the RPI. Like, is a pretty decent record, and then 4th or 5th in the Big 12 with a shaky RPI. That might not be enough this year. I mean, it really might not be. As far as the schedule goes, there's the 11 games of quote unquote easier games, the 11 games before Texas Tech. I'm thinking 10-1 is pretty necessary there. I mean,
yeah,
if they go 9-2, people will still say, they could get hot in Big 12 play, which is absolutely true. But just from what I'm projecting them to do in the Big 12, which is be around the 4th or 5th best team, I would think 10-1, like they're going to need a record to look good on paper. And they're already in a bit of a hole with that. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to track throughout the year. This certainly won't be the last time we talk about it, but just wanted to touch on that because even though it is only March, early March, it's, I mean, the non-conference kind of slate kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
Quick thoughts on the Sam Houston State game that we saw. We already touched on a lot of this. The one thing I really want to talk about was Mitch Daly. I mean, we talked about it. He had an up and down weekend in Cali, and then David Pierce opts to give Jaden Duplantier the start at short. Duplantier had some good at-bats over the weekend, so they wanted to get him in there against the lefty. They thought, let's just stick him out there at short so that way we can have Jalen Flores at DH. And, it just, unfortunately, it didn't go well for Duplantier. You talked about it earlier. He didn't look comfortable over there at shortstop. He made 2 errors earlier in the game. So for the second time already this year, Daly had been, he had been given the day off, or, they had opted not to put him at shortstop. And the guy who replaced him made 2 errors early in the game, and Daly was back in there by like the 6th or 7th inning. So yeah. He got his shot. And I think it was a good response from Daly because he came in, immediately jumped and caught a line drive, made a couple of pretty nice plays on defense throughout the game, and then hit the solo homer in the 9th inning to give Texas an insurance run. So, yeah. You don't ever expect like a baseball player at Texas to be down and feeling sorry for themselves when they do get benched. But I mean, these guys are human, they're not robots. He sees another guy out there at shortstop when he's supposed to be one of the leaders on the team. I'm sure he wasn't super happy about that, thrilled, but he stayed ready. He came in, he did a really good job. And I think he's the best bet at short going forward, at least what we've seen earlier from, it doesn't seem like it's going to be Jalen Flores, Duplantier and Kate O'Hara. They've kind of had their shot. They didn't make the most of it. We could see those guys again at some point, but I think at this point, the best bet probably seems to be just kind of letting Daly get more comfortable out there with more reps, and then hope he kind of finds it at the plate. And he looked good on Tuesday night. That home run was legit. It was no joke.
Yeah, he's a resilient kid, right? He comes from a really good family. His dad, everyone knows the story. He's a general. So he grew up with that belief in himself and that kind of that natured environment where he's never gonna give up and he's not gonna give in. And I think that's what we've seen so far. I've really been impressed with his at-bats recently. He's not, again, kind of the Flores issue, right? The reaching out and trying to do more than what he needs to be doing at the time. And he stuck to it. I mean, he's hit the ball really, really hard. So it'll be fun to watch him continue to just progress as a player, as one of the infield leaders on the team, to get where I think most people expect him to be, especially after that freshman year where he was hitting 340 something. So
yeah, and then just on the mound, LBJ was pretty solid. Sam Houston actually put together some pretty good at bats against him. I think they had 7 hits. Only 2 earned runs though. LBJ, he's growing. I mean, he's getting more efficient with his pitches. He's throwing a lot more strikes, less walks. He's doing a better job in the running game. It's not perfect yet. And then Charlie Hurley out of the pen, we already talked about it. He was just even better. I mean, he was just lights out, close game, high leverage. Didn't bother him. He had some really quick innings out there. So yeah, and then Texas will be back at it against Mercer on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for LBJ was the fact that he went 6 innings.
That was nice.
Continuing to get him extended, continuing to let him work in efficiency. That's gonna be really big long term, especially if is the guy on Sunday or Saturday in the Big 12 during conference play, making sure that he has the ability to go 6 or 7 and know that he can do it, have that kind of elasticity in his arm and the preparedness. That's big. So yeah, I liked what I saw. But Sam Houston also at the same time did what they did during the Carbach Classic. They're hunting fastballs early. They're being super aggressive. And look, if you get a hold of a 95 heater over the middle, you're gonna send it a long way. And that's what happened, right? So yeah, no worries there. It's good to see him continue to extend. But yeah. Sorry, you're looking to head to the Jaspers of Manhattan this weekend.
Yeah, so let's talk about we kind of had the same initial thought here, which was what's the deal with these guys? What's their whole deal? Who are these guys? When I first looked at it, I was like, all right, Manhattan on the schedule. My first question was, which Manhattan are we talking about? Like, is this like New York? Is this Kansas? Is this some other Manhattan? This is just, there's colleges all over the place. There could be a bunch of Manhattans I don't know about. We look it up. It is in fact the Manhattan in the Bronx. That was good. First question answered. Second question, what is their mascot? All right, they're the Jaspers. Cool. What's a Jasper? So it's never great when you see a team on the schedule and you think of where is that school? And then also, what the heck is their mascot? So did a little research. This is very interesting. The Manhattan Jaspers are named after Brother Jasper. And he's basically this guy that just founded like basically the entire school and all the clubs in the athletic program. So this guy, Brother Jasper, this is back in just like the old days. He ends up becoming like the first ever athletic director, the first ever baseball coach. He's not only the baseball coach, I guess back in the day, they had more responsibility than just making pitching changes and arguing about the pitch clock in 1807. They were actually in charge of like making sure the fans were behaving well in the stands and like having a good time. So our guy, Brother Jasper, he had a lot going on during his Manhattan games back there in the 1800s. Yeah, so apparently we did a little more research. They have this written on the website. There was one day they're playing this game. It was hot outside. The fans were getting pretty restless. They were a little tired, a little edgy in the stands. And, good old Brother Jasper, he goes, hey, guys, maybe it'd be a good idea to just walk around, stretch a little bit, get the body flowing. And, the rest is history. This guy invented the 7th inning stretch on that day. He went out. The fans were just not having a great time. He recommended that they stretch, and that became a tradition at the Manhattan baseball games. And apparently it just spread throughout the whole game of baseball. So this guy that just founded this entire baseball program and athletic department, he invented the 7th inning stretch. What are your thoughts and reactions?
I'm just blown away. A, that you did this much research on the Jaspers. B, who the hell knew that this guy was the one that invented the 7th inning stretch? I'm blown away. I mean, we could end right there, and I'm a happy man. No.
Yeah. One other thing I found, honestly, the research, it was one of the first things that popped up because this is not a storied baseball program. Inventing the 7th inning stretch is definitely their thing. I was looking at their stats last year. One thing popped out to me. They hit 32 homers as a team. 32 homers, that ring a bell? Bravo. Ivan Melendez, 32 Bravo, homers. These guys hit the same amount of home runs as Ivan Melendez in 2022. I thought that was incredible. That's always worth bringing up. So now that I've wasted, I don't know, about like 5.5 minutes with a bunch of nonsense about these guys, you want to tell us just like a little bit of actual stuff that like might be relevant going into this weekend?
Yeah, I guess I'll bore everyone. They're 3-8 on the season. They're picked, bottom of the order in the MAC. And the reason I say MAC is it's the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, not to be confused with the MAC. So
it just means more in the MAC. It means more.
There's more MAC. Yeah. On the season, their wins have been against Cal State Bakersfield and the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I didn't actually think that was a real place, but
No.
apparently it is because there was 79 people that attended their Sunday game and 83 people that attended their Saturday game against UMES. So look, they're used to large crowds. Occupy Left Field might scare these people back to New York. I don't know. They haven't had a winning season since 2012, and even that season they went like 2 games above 500. There's a lot of momentum though with the Jaspers because they went 24-26 last year, so they won a few games. But yeah, Texas has never played these guys. Shockingly, their batting average is 206, so not good. Their ERA is 7.95, not good. And for those Texas fans that complain about the errors by Texas, the fielding percentage for the Jaspers is 9.48. They've committed 20 errors on the season, so this may be just like the boot ball series. I don't know. Like there could be a lot of kangaroos. Check out Aaron's Twitter. It could be ugly.
Yeah, the message boards on Rivals for the Manhattan Jaspers baseball website, they are up in arms over the errors this year. I mean, the threads are just ablaze every time, anytime either one of these, local New Jersey kids boots a ball out there in left field. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah. The one player to watch is their shortstop, which is ironic because he's actually 6'5". Talk about a tall shortstop,
Let's
Jack
go.
Lynch.
Tall stop.
Yeah, tall stop. He's in 375 on the year, 2 home runs, 12 RBI. So he's got some good numbers. Of course, again, they've played the University of Maryland Eastern Shore in front of friends and family. They have a really weird rotation this year. So they have 3 starting pitchers, Hesselink, Fagler, and Rorabeck. But what's really weird is they've only played 1 normal series, like a Friday through Sunday. Their other weekend series have been doubleheader Saturdays and doubleheader Sundays. So their pitching has just been absolute chaos. Like everyone throwing, probably why their ERA is not really great. But yeah, like most likely Texas is going to see the 10th left-handed pitcher this season out of 13 games. It's going to be likely left-hander Will Hesselink. He's 0-3 with a 10.5 ERA. So not great. Their other starter, right-hander pitcher Tyler, is 1-2 with a 9 ERA, and then the third starter is right-hander Darian Rorabeck. He's 0-0, so no losses. Good for him, but he has a 4.5 ERA.
Undefeated, some would say.
Undefeated, some would say. But yeah, so I'll just jump straight to predictions. If Texas does not sweep, if there are not brooms by a large margin this weekend, you may find everyone out in Occupy Left Field celebrating Peña's extended birthday weekend of debauchery and drinking. So
if Texas does not go 3-0 this weekend against the Jaspers, I will go on a custom jersey building website, get a Manhattan Brother Jasper baseball jersey, and wear it on the show in coming weeks. Don't hold me to that because it probably won't actually happen, but that's just, popped into my brain. Thought that would be a funny thing to say. So we went with it. A Brother Jasper jersey would be a pretty good throwback. I mean, you've got those, for any college kids out there looking for you always have jersey parties. You don't want to be the guy that just shows up with the LeBron James jersey or the Mike Trout jersey. You want to have like a vintage throwback jersey that nobody has. Get yourself a custom made Brother Jasper jersey from the 1800s. You can tell people he invented the 7th inning stretch. I mean, if that's not a good little party story, I don't know what is, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Texas, I mean, it would be good if Texas went 3-0 this weekend against Manhattan. You want to talk about some other teams in the Big 12?
Yeah, the Big 12 season so far has just been a little helter-skelter, right? You got Texas Tech, who was just cruising along, and then Randon got just absolutely ambushed by Rice, and then played a just 16-inning skullduggery of a game against Texas A&M in which they lost. But overall, they've been hitting the ball like crazy. Shocker, they play on the Plains. Okie State is a team where they might give up 10 runs one game and then score 20 the next. You never know what you're getting out of them, other than the fact that Nolan McLean is still an absolute bad mofo. Like that dude has just continued to mow down people and hit bombs. TCU's had struggles, shockingly, after that really good weekend up in Arlington. They've lost to UT Arlington. Shout out to Clay Van Hook, former Longhorn. yeah, there's just been a lot of teams that are all kind of 7-5, 6-4. You just don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis. There's a lot of inconsistency, which, when we looked at the preview around the Big 12, I think we kind of alluded to it. Like a lot of these teams lost their starting rotations, lost some really talented, experienced players, and you're trying to see them figure it out during the non-conference series. So, it's not all doom and gloom going into the Big 12 conference, simply for the fact that Texas might get on a tear and might get, a bad game against TCU. You don't know what you're going to get. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, we talked about it before the season. It was really hard to preview the Big 12 because there was just so much roster turnover with pretty much every single school. TCU and Oklahoma State looks pretty solid in Arlington, but not everything has gone smoothly for those teams. I mean, it's just going to be a weird year when we get into conference play. I mean, just any given series, any given game besides Baylor, you're not going to know what the result's going to be. I mean, it's going to be tough to predict. It's going to be up and down. I'm looking forward to it. It'll cause for a lot of chaos, which is always fun to deal with. I think I saw you listed. You want to talk a little Golden Spikes? I mean, Jack Caglione, I'll let you start it off, but the guy from Florida, man, he is tearing it up this year.
He is a monster. Like, yeah, you see a guy pumping 98, 97 from the left side of the mound, and you're like, okay, he's good. Oh, wait, he's actually hit 10 home runs. What is it? 20 RBIs. His numbers are 385 batting average, 1.4 OPS, 1 slugging percentage. I mean, he is a monster. And he's essentially become must-watch TV at this point. I mean, every single weekend, he was playing against Miami this past weekend. You're just like, what is he going to do next? I don't know. Is he going to hit 3 home runs in a game that, half a mile? Sure. He's done that. So, yeah, he's far and away the Golden Spikes runner-up, which it sounds crazy to like be talking about this early, but that's how good he is. So,
yeah, I mean, it's crazy too, because they start him on Sundays and they still let him hit even when he's starting. They're like, we're not using the DH. This guy has already got 10 homers on the year and a 1467 OPS. I mean, we're putting him out there, and man, he's been fun to watch. I turn on Florida every chance I get just to see what that guy's up to. It's
been insane. Yeah, and then just close things out. This is not probably the most exciting weekend of college baseball for those looking for the big, storied matchups. Probably the biggest one is out east, Virginia versus North Carolina, 2 top 25 programs. Both of them have looked really good at times and have, played some really good games. It'd be interesting to see what happens there. I think the series that I'm most looking forward to, though, is actually on the Plains. Speaking of Texas Tech, is them playing against Iowa. Iowa's got some absolute hurlers, and I want to see what 100-mile-an-hour fastballs do on the Plains against the Texas Tech squad that can obviously hit the ball. So I actually picked Iowa in the upset. I may be completely off base, but that's one of my upset series this weekend. And then they haven't started well, but San Diego has some players, and so they're playing TCU in Fort Worth. It'd be interesting to see what that looks like. So,
yeah, not a huge weekend in college baseball. Virginia, I believe they're undefeated, but have not really played anyone yet.
So one of 3 undefeated so far.
Yeah, that'll be their first test of the year against North Carolina. So we'll be interesting to see how they fare against better competition. Not too much going on. I mean, there's, it's a good weekend of sports outside. I mean, obviously everyone will be locked into the horns against the Jaspers, as they should be, but a lot of other stuff going on. You got the Players Championship. You got a Big 12 men's basketball conference tournament. Texas is the 2 seed. We'll see if they can go on a little run there before March Madness. It'll be fun. It'll be good to see you at the Dish. You got anything else to say to the people before we get out of here? Get ready for Mercer.
Yeah, get ready for Mercer, and looking forward to that game tonight. I know, we're recording before the game, but yeah, I didn't know that was the history behind the 7th inning stretch, and now I'm really more excited. And I'm excited to see Manhattan's response to more than 79 people in the stand. That good for them. I like it.
I want to know, like, when the 7th inning stretch happens and everyone gets up at the Dish and starts stretching, like, is Manhattan going to be like, "You're welcome"? By the way, are they going to want to make an announcement that you guys do this because of us? We're playing the long game here. I don't know. I mean, it'll certainly be interesting for something to think about. I'm definitely going to make it known because I don't know what else we're going to be talking about. So that'll be fun. While you guys are here, please give this video a like, subscribe to the page. There's always spring football started up. So, If you want to hear about Arch Manning or Quinn Ewers or anybody else on the Texas football team, we have a video for it that you can find just below here, because those guys are pumping out videos on YouTube every single day. Check out all the good writing on orangebloods.com. Follow us on Twitter. I am at Aaron Little OB. Zach is at Zach at the Dish. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got. Everyone enjoy the games this weekend. Enjoy this long homestand. Try to get out to the Dish if you are able to. And with that, we will be back next week.
Sounds good. Hook 'em.